Hey everyone, on this week's Trade to Black podcast, we learned that is the future of finance moving to Miami, Florida? Well, that's the word coming out of this week's Bitcoin conference. And speaking of news, Peter Thiel had some interesting thoughts on Warren Buffett, saying he's the sociopathic grandpa from Omaha because he doesn't like crypto. Whoo, baby. Some fighting words. Elsewhere, cannabis. There could be some tax breaks for in-state operators. What does this mean for investors? Find out now in our latest podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Trade to Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, and as usual, before we get into this week's podcast, all views on the Trade to Black podcast and the guests on this podcast are purely opinion. You should not treat any opinions expressed by us or our guests as investment advice. The views on this podcast are solely intended to be informational and are not investment advice. Joining us, as usual, is Anthony Varrell, millennial entrepreneur and co-founder of the NFT project Only Gems. There, we can say it. How's that?
There we go. Yeah, thanks for the plug, Chad. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. We got to learn more about this NFT project, but it is very, very cool related to trading cards, but we're going to learn more about this. But lots to talk about as you were at the Bitcoin conference in Miami this week, and I'd love to hear what's going on. As usual, joining us is the lead financial writer, Benjamin A. Smith. Ben, great to have you on. How's your week been, brother?
Week has been very good, Shad. Thank you for having me on again. Anthony, good to see you again.
Yep. Good to be back.
So let's begin, gents. I want to start with the global economy. We are seeing many countries bouncing back from the COVID pandemic. However, we're seeing a growing list of risks clouding the economic outlook. In the U.S., the Federal Reserve faces the delicate task of cooling inflation, which is at a 4-decade high. Some economists still believe that a recession is unlikely. However, Bill Dudley, the former president of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, warned that a recession was now, quote, virtually inevitable, believing that the Federal Reserve has waited too long to tighten policies. So, Anthony, I want to begin with you. What do you believe? Are we headed towards a recession?
I mean, like I said last week, to be honest, I don't think anyone knows what the fuck is going on. To be honest, we're in like unprecedented times. Like, we've printed more money than ever. We shut the world down for a year and a half. Like, we're just coming back online. COVID could come back. Like, there's a bunch of things that could happen. The Fed's finally starting to raise rates. We've seen it impact the markets, and there's a ton of volatility. I mean, I think it's just uncharted waters. It's kind of just do whatever your gut's telling you, prepare accordingly, and I mean, hope for the best. Like, I don't think we're going to get thrown into some doomsday scenario like that makes 2008 look like child's play. But I do think there could be some short-term pain. And I mean, yeah, we could go into a recession if things don't get better, if inflation keeps kicking up, if energy prices keep kicking up, if Russia doesn't get handled. I mean, I think there's going to be a lot of repercussions from what's going on with Russia. They're the largest exporter of oil. They're the largest exporter of fertilizer. I mean, they've got a very large impact on the world economy. And I don't think anything has even shown itself yet from what's going to happen with that whole mess.
Give me a facial expression if I told you 3 years ago what was going to come. Just a facial expression of how the world is.
I mean, I kind of laugh at it. I mean,
it's crazy.
I don't take it all too seriously. I mean, at the grand scheme of things, it really doesn't impact my day-to-day life. So I mean, it's not. I just really don't think about it. But yeah, I mean, if you would have told me that we would have been going through a pandemic and right afterwards Vladimir Putin was going to just march into Ukraine and just start shelling the place, no, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have thought so. I also wouldn't have thought that we would have done nothing. I'm very surprised at that. But I can only hope that China doesn't decide to grow balls and try to go take over Taiwan, because if that happens, then there's going to be a lot of pain in the near term.
Ben, when you look at the job growth, this is the best the North American economy has seen in over 50 years, with jobless claims at 54-year lows. So how exactly do you think the Federal Reserve will tackle inflation rates?
Well, clearly they're going to be focused on reducing inflation, which is at 40-year highs itself. And I think the jobless claims kind of, kicks into that because the job market is extremely tight right now. Jobless claims at a 54-year low, as you mentioned. So there's very, very tight conditions in the labor market. Even Society Generale came out and they joined Goldman Sachs by saying that they expect a 50 basis point cut. So some of the investment banks are thinking that the Fed's going to get really aggressive at the early part of the tightening cycle. And I think that was sort of weighing on what happened in the market this week. So I'd like to, sort of echo what Anthony said. It's a very tricky environment right now, just because when growth is actually very robust. Jobless claims are very low. So on the face of it, it looks like the economy is actually super strong, and it is right now. But some of the leading indicators, if you look at credit card debt, is now at the great financial crisis highs. Personal savings rate at the great financial crisis lows, right? So all the stimulus money has been spent. People are using their credit cards. Interest rate cycle is tightening, ratcheting up. So everything appears to be really good right now, but we're starting to see signs that the economy is probably at peak and is slowing down. So whether there's another 12 or 18 months of lead time in the market and the market go to new highs, who knows? Timing is always an issue. You never know until after the recession, but it's slowing down right now. So it's good to be. We're in very interesting times in the market.
So how are you playing the market right now?
Well, I think you just got to be defensive. The way I'm playing it is I'm playing theme plays, select theme plays, which I know have a catalyst, 3 or 4 months out. We'll get into the canvassing, for example. If you think safe banking is going to pass, then that sort of catalyst is going to supersede any, the macro economy right now and maybe the slowdown in that. So I think you want to play stocks that have, immediate catalysts within say the next 3 or 4 months, and something that is going to not be so long cycle where, the catalyst is 2 or 3 years out and then you run into a recession. I think those are more dangerous places. You want to look at the immediate term. What are the catalysts? What can move stocks within a 3-month time window?
Elsewhere that caught my attention this week, the Liberal government of Canada just announced that they will ban foreigners from buying a home in the country for the next 2 years. It's crazy. To cool, obviously, the red-hot real estate market, home prices in Canada have soared 50% over the past 2 years. So I'd like to get an idea from both of you. Do you think this is an attempt to distract Canadians' attention and the political backlash they're receiving due to inflation? What's your thoughts, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really get it. I mean, I think it's a little bit of a brash measure to take. But, I mean, is the supply that's coming online really that much to just say, hey, we're going to ban international money from coming in and purchasing? Like, what's that going to do to the market? You don't want it to have the adverse effect. I mean, real estate going up 50% in the last 2 years, it's everywhere. I mean, my neighbor's house just sold for 75% more than what I purchased mine for 18 months ago. I mean, it's happening everywhere. You want to talk about the macro stuff? I mean, interest rates are starting to go up. I mean, I got a rate of like 2.7 on my mortgage. My buddy, I think, just bought a place a month ago and his rate's like 4.8. I mean, they're going up above 5. So, I mean, rates are going up. Yeah, I mean,
by the way, did you lock in and take the fixed instead of the variable?
Yeah, I have a fixed. I didn't fuck around with the variable. Not at that rate. But then, I mean, you look at mortgage applications this month in the U.S., I think they're down 40% month over month. So, I mean, if the housing market starts to roll over and starts to come back to earth, which, I mean, I think it will. I don't think it's going to go back to where it was, but it's definitely going to come down to a degree. I think that could affect the market and as well as other things. But the Canadian, just the way that they're doing that, just, hey, no more international money, I'm curious to see where it goes, because I actually do keep tabs on the real estate market in like Toronto, Vancouver, et cetera, just to follow along.
You mentioned before we started recording, one of your friends bought a condo downtown Vancouver. What's the square footage on it? 1,800 square feet. It was just under $4 million.
But around there, yeah.
Wow. And then Waterfront condo, same size in, let's say, Miami. Any idea what that would cost?
About 1.3. Depending on the building. I mean, it could probably go up to as high as, let's say, it could probably go up to as high as 1.8. But I mean, I would say between 1.3 and 1.5 is about the price for a condo of that size in Miami.
But do you think that's where Miami is headed? Because it appears it could be the future of finance. You don't think?
No, there's so much inventory. I mean, the houses in Miami are nuts as it is. I mean, there are houses that my wife and I were looking at that we were going to reno that were like 800 grand that are selling for 1.5 million right now. And that's built in the 1940s.
Wow.
That's not new construction. That's like a 2,800 square foot, like older home that needs gutting, like to the studs, gutting. So, I mean, I don't think the market in Miami is going to go up much higher. If it does, it's going to look like Vancouver or Hong Kong or I think Miami might be outpacing San Francisco right now in terms of, in terms of price growth. But I don't think it's going to get. I don't think it can go much higher. It's not sustainable. If you want to be a hospitality worker or something like that, which there are a lot of in Miami, you can't afford to live in Miami anymore. No, it's not possible.
Well,
it's not even possible making $100K a year right now living in downtown Miami. You'd be living paycheck to paycheck.
First, it was New York flocking, obviously, to Florida when COVID first hit. Now it's everybody all over the country. California people even leaving and coming to Florida. But Ben,
well, it's good because I don't know if you saw that headline, but LA County actually banned their employees from traveling to Texas and Florida. So I really wish the state of California would probably do that, just coast to, or top to bottom, and just stop coming here. They could stay. They could stay over there, do whatever the fuck they want, but stop coming to Florida.
So repeat that again. L.A. County banned the residents from traveling.
No, not the residents. Any of the employees of the county of L.A. They banned them from any sort of official travel to Texas or Florida due to some of the LGBTQ laws that have been put into effect that they have a completely ass backwards interpretation of. As to what they actually stand for.
I'd love to talk about that, but I don't want to.
Nope.
Ben, what's your thoughts on foreigners not being able to buy? Obviously, the inventory is a big issue in Canada, but this will be interesting to see how this plays out and how the whole housing market will be affected. I don't really see much change. Maybe the growth does slow down a bit, but you're not going to see any depreciation in value of any homes here in the country.
It might make a little bit of an impact on, sort of the high end where investors are purchasing. When you lower the demand, that should have some effect on price. I don't know how much it's going to really affect like the low end where, some of these international investors really tend to focus more on the mid tier into the high end. So the housing shortages in this country are mostly on like the mid-tier to low end. So I'm not sure if it's going to affect for just like regular people, how much it's going to affect prices and stuff like that. And, you're right. Housing inventory is still going to be, it's not adequate as it is. So, in a way, it's like the government creates an issue by, allowing, 1 to 1.5% of immigration of people to come in the country. So we have a housing shortage, and then they don't properly address the housing shortage by creating enough new housing starts. So
in Vancouver, aren't they fining people that actually don't live there?
Yeah.
Like that are just parking their money?
There's neighborhoods where like 75% of the neighborhood is completely vacant because of how much offshore investors have come in and bought property. It's a big issue, but
and that's a byproduct of like of capital outflows from China mainly, right? A lot of Asians in Vancouver, so capital outflows are looking for a place to park their money and get out of the yuan and get into other assets internationally. So they just end up buying all these homes and neighborhoods, and there's nobody living in them. They just want a place to park their money. All these billionaires and multimillionaires in China during their industrial revolution boom, right? So it is what it is.
We're going to have to bring on some real estate insiders next week and get more understanding of this. But I want to shift to crypto. And what a week it's been in Miami at the Bitcoin conference, and what many believe is the city that's home to the future of finance. It's quickly becoming the crypto hub of the world, or at least that's what the city's attempt is. So, Anthony, have you been down, and what are you hearing about what's going on down there?
I think it's good. I mean, they unveiled the Miami crypto bull or Bitcoin bull.
What'd you think
yesterday.
of
that? It's a little cheesy, but at the same time, I think it's cool. I mean, I think it's good in spirit. It's good it's good that they're at least doing something. I mean, Suarez is all in. He's not full of shit. He puts his money where his mouth is. He said he was going to try and attract tech companies and attract cryptocurrency companies and Web3 companies to the city of Miami. He's doing that. He's become an evangelist for the sector. I think it's great. I think it's probably going to become a good tax environment for companies that are moving to Miami in those verticals. I mean, it'll spur growth. It'll bring talent. It'll bring money back into the economy. And I mean, BTC Miami is one of the largest Bitcoin conferences in the world now. NFT Miami was last week. Ethereum Miami and Solana Miami are going on this week in tandem with Bitcoin. And then you've got Miami Tech Week that's coming up right after that. So, I mean, I respect what he's doing. He said he was going to do it, and he's doing it. He's delivering. There's more talent. There's more money. Founders Fund just moved down to the city of Miami. There's a ton of office real estate that's being built that's going into tech infrastructure. It's great. I mean, I welcome it with open arms, and I think it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Kevin O'Leary last night. Go ahead.
What else are you going to say?
Sorry. O'Leary was literally saying yesterday, I forget where, I might have actually been to BTC Miami, but it was a video I was watching online about how crypto, it's going to become part of the S&P 8 to 10 years down the road. I mean, there's going to be so much money that pours into these technologies that it's just, it makes the industry right now look infantile, which is true. But I mean, he's a big advocate. And I mean, I know, he's someone I'd like out there talking and being pro crypto versus like a lot of the old finance magnates that just want nothing to do with it.
We got to have him on again. Ben, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, in your opinion, since you're in the Miami area, whether the Puerto Rico plays a part in why Miami's being built up, because obviously there's a big tax haven in Puerto Rico. What sort of connection or nexus is there? I'm sure it's related somehow.
I don't think there's really a connection. I don't think there's a corollary between the two. I mean, if anything, I think people that are moving to Puerto Rico probably have a place in Miami just to like get away. Because I mean, as beautiful as Puerto Rico is,
come on, Anthony, come on.
You're completely no. I mean, there's not enough people there. Like I know people that are moving to Puerto Rico, and there are people that are taking on the tax advantages of it. But you have any idea what it's like to be at Puerto Rico during a fucking hurricane?
No,
like, that island had no electricity for like 6 months. They had like no food or running water. Like
6 months.
Yeah. Oh, the island got destroyed by the last hurricane. It was a federal disaster zone. Like those islands are in the middle of like where hurricanes just rip through. Like sure, it's great, but I'm getting my ass out of there during hurricane season. 100%. You have to be there for 6 months and 1 day. And the IRS, if you actually decide to claim taxes in Puerto Rico, you're on a list for like auditing, like guaranteed. Yeah. Like they don't fuck around. They don't fuck around with it whatsoever.
Well, the hurricane thing, I got a friend that moved to the Caymans, and he looks at reports that start trending 2.5 months in advance that are way across the ocean. And they watch that stuff closely, stuff that obviously we don't think about. But if you're out there and completely vulnerable in the middle of an ocean, I think you probably look at things differently once you actually experience a hurricane for the first time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've experienced them on the mainland. I could only imagine experiencing them on an island.
Oof. I know I asked if you've been hearing any news. Well, there was some interesting news at this conference this week pertaining to Peter Thiel, who is the obviously no introduction or doesn't need any kind of introduction. He's the founder of PayPal, strategic investor of atai Life Sciences, announcing at the conference this week that Warren Buffett tops the quote-unquote enemies list of people who are trying to stop the cryptocurrency, further saying that to a booing crowd whenever Buffett's name was brought up, that he is, get this, quote, the sociopathic grandpa from Omaha. Anthony, do you think he could have been a little bit more opinionated based on his thoughts towards Buffett?
No. I mean, I like and respect what Peter Thiel's done with PayPal, with the Founders Fund, with Palantir. Just his no nonsense, no bullshit. He says whatever he wants and he stands by whatever he wants. I mean, he had no problem aligning himself with Trump due to the political and the social backlash. He stands by his principles. And I mean, to be honest, look at what Warren Buffett invests in. He invests in oil and gas, fast food, the financial sector. Basically, all the sectors of the economy that all they do is mine value out of the middle and the lower class and just bring it all to the top. Like, fuck Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's, sure, he's an amazing investor. He's in the public eye as some scion of Wall Street. But I mean, one thing's for sure. Whenever Warren Buffett is endorsing a company or making a move into a company, he's getting shares for 25% with warrant, 25% cheaper with warrants and with some sort of prefs before he even says anything to the market. Like Warren Buffett's not some evangelist, jack of all trades or man of all people. Like Warren Buffett is a shark, and I mean the guys that can't see crypto for what it is and can't start to understand that it actually is a revolutionary technology, like fuck them. They're gonna either die or they're gonna get left in the dust. And I can't stand Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger. And I mean the fact that it's not what they're saying; it's the fact that what they're saying just doesn't align with fact when it comes to cryptocurrency.
It's the way people build them up.
They want to deny the facts.
Yeah, it's a certain image that I'm just like, this is a youth movement. You know, if they're actually trying to squash what Thiel thinks is potentially 100xer for Bitcoin, you look at the city, you look at obviously the demographics that's going there, and there's talks about being the future of obviously finance with this city. This is a youth movement. So I would think this is some of the challenges that guys like Thiel and others have to deal with, because he's also very critical of JP Morgan CEO of Jamie Dimon, along with BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, believing that, again, those are the people standing in front of Bitcoin becoming 100xer from here. So,
I mean, they've got a lot to lose. I mean, they've got a tremendous amount to lose. I mean, they've got to keep those client accounts running. They've got to keep the dollars flowing through their banks. They've got to keep the financial pipes running. I mean, they've got no incentive to become crypto evangelists unless they start to just deploy tons of capital into the sector. But I mean, that's not going to happen. They're not going to be able to deploy enough capital into crypto to outweigh the vast amounts of money they have on the other side of the table in other investments. It's never going to happen. They're simply talking their book, and I mean that's what they're paid. Yeah, that's what they're paid to do.
Mm-hmm.
You just said it right there. And they have an interest in keeping the status quo, which has obviously worked very well for them. So they have absolutely no interest in Bitcoin. In fact, they have a counter interest to bring it down, to tear it down, and not see it get adopted so that they can have the fiat money system that they've worked through their whole lives and done well, that it can be propped up or retain its status quo. So they don't want to see Bitcoin succeed. And they don't understand the value of it. They're dinosaurs, right?
Yeah. Yep. Ben, let's touch on DeFi. Q1 just completed, and DeFi apps across the industry reported over $1.2 billion assets lost due to hackers. So we're definitely seeing skyrocketing growth within the industry. However, there's a lot of tweaks that obviously need to be made to the industry. What was your response when you read that stat on a story that we did earlier this week?
Yeah, my first reaction is how resilient total value locked in the DeFi market is. I mean, considering how much volatility we had in the first quarter of 2022, these are the type of industries that should get shot, right? I mean, a lot of small cap, speculative small cap stocks are down like 80%. So for DeFi to rebound, for the tokens to rebound, and all these protocols now about 20 billion under its previous peak in November 2021, it just strikes me as very impressive. And a few in the industry that, like Jonathan Weisblatt, he's talked about this, and a few others. So, I think it shows how much demand that there is, and there's a record for wallets, for some of these DeFi protocols opening up and things like that. So the demand is definitely there, and I think it bodes very well that you've seen this huge rebound in TVL. I mean, nothing's slowing this down, and I think the long-term trend is going to continue.
And look at something like Anchor.
Explain
Explain
to the viewers what the whole TVL means within the DeFi space and why it's important for investors to know
so
that.
It's total value locked. It's simply the amount of coins from a pure dollar perspective that are currently staked and earning yield in the ecosystem. It's the equivalent of having your dollars put into your, actually no, it's not the equivalent of having your dollars. It's simple total coin staked. So when I own SushiSwap, when I own Uniswap, when I own Terra or Luna, if I'm going in and I'm staking those coins, whether it's in a liquidity pool or a staking contract, if I'm locking up those coins, that is total value locked until I either unstake those, put them back in my wallet, or whatever I do with them. But when I'm staking that 30 billion or whatever that figure Ben just said, that's the total value of staked coins currently, which does add to price appreciation because those coins, when they're staked, they can't be bought or sold. They're almost dormant. So the supply is coming offline the more of a DeFi coin that gets staked.
So what's that say about that remaining strong while small cap stocks are down 70-80% over 12 months? Again, it just go back to what we're talking about in Miami, the future of finance and a whole shift in how we operate.
Yeah, so I mean, why would I buy a penny stock when I can buy something like Luna or like Anchor and stake my coins and be getting a 20% yield on that? Like that makes no sense. Why am I going to take the risk on a company that I have no I have no say in, I have no vision on really, and it's super risky because I mean when you look at the broad market, I mean there's way more risk factors involved versus something like a DeFi protocol where I mean yes there are inherent risk factors there too, but 20% yield and I can just stake my coins. Sure, I will take that all day as a safe harbor versus fiat or stocks. There's no I'm not invested in stocks right now for the most part. I mean, I've got very, very little money in the actual equity market. Most of it is locked up in DeFi, locked up in NFTs, and locked up in crypto.
Now, speaking of inherent risk, Anthony, I don't know if you caught the Ronin network hack, which happened March 30th. 620 million was basically stolen from that protocol. Yeah. And if you actually look year over year, the amount of money stolen in hacks is up about fivefold from where it was in the first quarter of 2021. So I want to get your take on, like, how risky is it for just hacks in this environment, and should investors be concerned about that? And what sort of due diligence should people take to make sure that they're staking the right protocols?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things. The Ronin hack was a hack on a bridge, which when you're bridging from one chain to one chain, there's security vulnerabilities that could be had with the contract. So I mean, that didn't really surprise me to see that hack. But I mean, it's a new environment. I mean, like I've said before, really everyone that's in crypto right now are beta testers. Like we're literally the guinea pigs that are in there. I mean, I use cold wallets and cold storage, and I don't keep a lot of my coins actually on chain just to keep everything secure. But I mean, for instance, in like a DeFi protocol, you can't do that. You don't have that optionality. When your coins are staked, like they're vulnerable to hacks of the chain. And I mean, hacks are going to happen. Hacks are they're going to diminish over time as the security gets better, the engineering gets better, and you start to see more, I guess, hyper secure technologies come online. But I mean, it's kind of buyer beware right now.
When that happens, segue into the institutional investor, and that's when things get interesting. Before we start at Cannabis, we want to get you at home as you're watching this, get your comments below. Are you invested in the stock market right now? Are you investing in DeFi? What do you like? What's your thoughts? Leave your comments below. We'd love to hear your feedback. And don't forget to click on that bell for notifications and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate you following us. Let's now focus on the cannabis space and what appears that many states are saying is the hell with the federal government, who obviously have no idea what they're doing pertaining to this industry. Important news, as New York lawmakers inserted budget proposal language that will allow cannabis business to receive tax credits on deductions for normal business expenses prohibited under, obviously, the 280E tax code. So first, before we get into this on whether or not this is good, let's first understand what this all means and how this would work. So can you walk us through on what it means, Ben?
Yes, basically what is happening here is there's a budget proposal from in the market right now from New York lawmakers who are basically putting a proposal or language in the proposal that would give essentially tax credits back to companies that are subject to the 280E on a federal basis with the IRS. So essentially, it's circumventing 280E by giving them money back in a tax credit for business expenses that they could otherwise not deduct. So that's essentially what they're doing there. They're trying to get around the 280E code. And for people who don't know, 280E is is a provision in the IRS tax code which prevents cannabis businesses or any business that produces a Schedule 1 or Schedule 2 drug from accessing normal business expenses. So they can only deduct certain things and not a full range of business expenses like normal companies. So they're basically trying to get around that. So if I think it's very interesting because obviously a lot of people think that 280E is unfair, and if more states can do this, and assuming it passes, it's not illegal or it doesn't circumvent federal law, then I think it's going to be very, very helpful for the industry. So it's something to definitely watch out for to see if other states, enact, similar maneuvers.
So a lot of our investors, especially cannabis investors, are going to know what the 280E tax code is, but I appreciate explaining that. But at the end of the day, how does this all work? Because that tax code is implemented by the federal government. So if this is the states now stepping in and basically an operator has to pay not only the state, but they're going to have to pay the federal government as well at the end. I don't understand how that works or how that would work.
Well, from my understanding,
it's almost robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
It's
confusing.
Basically, just to finish that off, they're basically would give tax credits back. So the state would be losing tax money that they'd otherwise already receive just to cover the amount of taxes owing to the IRS. So in a way, it doesn't make sense. Like the states are actually losing money on this, from my understanding.
Yeah.
So why they want to do this, I'm not sure, but obviously they want to see these businesses succeed, and that's their prime motivation. But the states would be losing money in this equation.
Clearly, it's a sign that they're fed up with what's going on in Washington, I would think. Like it's a debacle as to what's going on, how something so simple has become so complicated, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's people are getting fed up with Washington on all fronts.
Oh,
not just cannabis.
Yeah, I hear you.
It's a constant push pull.
I love Barack Obama this week in Washington when he made a special appearance and he addresses Biden as Mr. Vice President. Oh, did that look accurate? But anyway, Senator Cory Booker suggested this week the full language of the Cannabis Administration Opportunity Act, otherwise known as CAOA, and that it could be released later this month, although he said 420 release may not happen given all the things that are of sort backing up in the Senate and everything that's going on in Washington. So first off, Ben, what is this bill and why is it important for investors to know?
Yeah, the bill is important because basically it would expunge people who are in prison for cannabis related expenses, and it would also federally legalize cannabis nationwide. So it's very important. It's similar to the MORE Act in a lot of ways, but this is Chuck Schumer's version of it. And obviously, if this ever passed, I mean, the market would take off. But unfortunately, I don't think it has too much chance of passing right now.
No.
So, Cory Booker's statements, I think the main takeaway there is that he suggested, or it seemed to suggest, that because of a legislative backup in the Senate, that maybe it won't come on time. And what I mean by on time is a lot of people expected that it would be introduced on 420. So what he says seems to think that maybe it might go past that, or possibly in May. So I don't know. Like we spoke about before, I don't think we should put too much stock in this. I don't think that the votes are there. Virtually no analyst does. Virtually no investors expect this to actually get through. So I think most people want to see this ultimately get introduced. They expect it to fail, and then we can start talking about safe banking or safe banking plus with an expungement act, and that would be the big federal regulatory breakthrough that most investors could expect this year.
Last thing I wanted to touch on, did either one of you get a chance to review Tilray's earnings reports? And if so, what was your thoughts on it?
I did. Yeah. I didn't think it was all that strong. The market reacted pretty positively. It was up, 15% at one point. There was a one-time gain, I think, that sort of boosted the numbers and perhaps made it look a little bit better than it was. But, cannabis revenues were flat to, I think, perhaps even down a little bit, 55 million or something to that effect. So, again, and Anthony's touched on it before. A lot of this company revenues is distro revenues, so it's lower margin.
It's a distro, yeah. It's distro in Europe. I mean, what I find fascinating is Tilray. It usually trades higher, whether the earnings are good or whether the earnings are bad. it doesn't. It hasn't mattered the last couple of quarters.
No.
Spatafora actually tweeted out there. He goes, "You might want to buy Tilray calls because honestly, it's traded up whether the earnings are bad or whether the earnings are good." So either the market has been conditioned to trade around Tilray's earnings, give it a pop, and then revert back to the mean, or people are just nitpicking out of it. But yeah, I mean, like Ben said, the distro revenue is great, but I mean that's what, an 8% margin business. It's not it's not sustainable, or it's not gonna give you cannabis numbers. I mean, they're never gonna achieve profitability by just scaling that. In the EU.
Well, Seeking Alpha basically said, not the greatest results, but again, it reiterated the opportunity in the U.S., which it's going to take time, as we say, and I know people hate hearing that, but that is the truth. Last thing I want to finish off is, what was your thoughts? Did you pick the Tar Heels to win that? They were up by 15 at halftime.
I had Kansas and UNC in the Final Four, or not in the Final Four, in the championship.
You did.
I had Kansas winning the game.
You and Ryan, hand in hand. He told me to pick the money line, and we were sitting pretty and feeling good. Sports betting, single game betting went live in Ontario on Monday, and there was parties everywhere. And halftime, we were happy. And then he whispers in my ear, the first 5 minutes of the second half are going to be the most important part of the game. Before we knew it, it was a tie game with 15 minutes to go. Ben, did you get a chance to watch the game?
I did not. I was busy doing watching the financial markets, working on our property TDR, so I didn't get a chance to watch the game. I haven't actually been following the Final Four or any NCAA this year.
All right,
when did the Heat whoop the Raptors' ass? Was that Sunday?
That was last Sunday. They didn't whip their ass.
But it was 140. It was 144 to 115. I think it was.
No. It was like a 5 or 6 point game. That's all. 144. They didn't score 144 points. I will say your boy Tyler Hero, he is unbelievable.
You're right. They laid 144 on the Hornets on Tuesday. It wasn't the Raptors on Sunday.
Tyler Hero is I don't know who's in contention for Sixth Man of the Year, but if he wins it, I will not be surprised. He is unreal. Yeah,
but to be honest, like, we're gonna have to give him a fucking max contract next season.
Well, he deserves it. I mean,
I know, but
by Dustin Robinson, like, you're not going to have him around much longer if you got an emerging player like him.
No,
but a complete team, I will say. But it was nice to see, obviously, Lowry back in Toronto and just the fan reaction. But I will say, as much as I'm a Raps fan and I appreciate everything he's done, the timing is right for him to walk. Got a great basketball team. Masai Ujiri pivoting and getting a young team in place that looks like they're going to play the Sixers in the first round and be a 5 seed.
You guys have a good squad. You guys have a decent squad. I mean, they've excelled after losing Kawhi. I think they've done great.
Yeah. Well, I will say, after watching Miami play, you can understand why they're the top seed. They're a complete team.
Yeah, they're deep, but we don't have a superstar. The problem is not the problem, but I mean, we spread it around every night. But I mean, those teams sometimes win.
Yeah,
that's good.
We'll see what happens when we got to go play Giannis and we got to go play Kevin Durant.
No, I think
especially in the playoffs, you need that big guy in the playoffs who can go the line 10, 12 times on a given night, right? Who gets the calls. That's where it's really going to matter.
There's no.
I was really impressed with the team though, and Tyler Hero. Yeah, what a player. But
Streets came out of nowhere too.
Phoenix is winning the title this year. They're winning it. They're winning it.
Let's see if they get out of the West.
Yeah. All right, gents. Good seeing you. Keep in touch. We'll see you early next week, okay?
Awesome.
Take care.
All right. Thanks,
Talk
guys.
soon.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you giving this video a thumbs up. We also value your feedback, so leave a comment below. And if you like what we do, then share this video on your socials. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and tap on that bell to receive notifications for all future videos that we post. Thanks for watching.